Hi everybody, it's Angie with Angie's Place. For those of you who don't know me, I do both fellowship, Bible fellowship, and unboxings. So if you like either one of those things, you can watch just the fellowship or just the unboxing or both. It's up to you. I kind of do this to keep me active a little bit. So anyway, today we're going to do fellowship, and I'm going to be doing Matthew chapters 22 and chapter 23. Some of this you might have to go back to my last episode, and it'll tell you. It just tells you fellowship chapters. It'll say Matthew dot and dot. So 20 and 21. You may have to go back to 20 and 21 to understand what we're getting ready to read. However, you don't have to, because I'll explain some of it, but still, if you think differently or you're catching something that I'm not catching in all the wordings, please feel free to comment down below and we can discuss it, because that's how me and my daughter do it. We find something, we get so excited and we'll go see the other one and be like, wow. Because either I missed it or she missed it or whatever, because everybody gets different things, but it's amazing. God gives us the right inspiration for it. And really, it's all about loving each other. Love is very, very important to God. I guess for those of you who have children, think of it this way. You don't want your children squabbling. You want them to love each other and to help each other, be there for one another. So that's what God wants us to do with other people. However, there are some instances where he's like, yeah, you shouldn't be hanging out with that person because it's causing you to do bad things. So you have to make a judgment call, especially on yourself. And sometimes it's a very, very hard judgment call. And so because we may really want that thing or to be with that person or that object, but God knows what's going to happen to us in the future. Anyway, I'm going to stop preaching like that now. I'm just going to read now. After you click the like and subscribe. The like button will help me spread it all over YouTube. I need all the help I can get right now. And the subscribe will mean you won't miss any of them. Now, so you don't have to watch all of them, but hey, if you do, thank you. Even if you don't, thank you for watching this one. It's very helpful, and maybe we can learn from one another. I can't talk today. Okay. Anyway. Here we go, because I'm apparently in a talkative mood. Jesus responded by speaking again in examples. This is a story about heaven's realm. It is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son, he explained. He sent his slave servants to call the invited guests to the wedding, but they didn't want to come. Next, he went over to the slave servants with the instructions. Tell the invited guests, I have prepared a feast. All the meat is ready. Everything is ready. Come to the wedding. But they couldn't care less, and they went away. One went to his own farm, another went to his business, but the rest of them grabbed his slave servants and beat them up badly, killing them. The king was furious and sent his armies. They destroyed those murderers and burned down their cities. Then the king said to his slave servants, the wedding is ready, but the invited guests weren't worthy of the honor. So go out to the highways and invite anyone you find to the wedding. The slaves went out to the highways and collected everyone they found, both good and bad, and the wedding hall was filled with guests at the reclining table. But the king came in to see the guests reclining at the table, and he came across a person who wasn't wearing wedding clothes. Friend, why did you come without wedding clothes? The king asked. But the person was muzzled and didn't say a word. Then the king said to his servants, tie up his hands and feet and throw him right out into the dark. There will be great sorrow, pain, and anguish. Many are invited, but few are chosen. Okay, so what that's talking about, the slave servants are technically, I guess you would say, us, the Christians, okay? Because not all of us are ready, or some people don't want it. So we can invite as many people, but not everybody's going to accept. And are we going to be ready when he comes? Some people believe that he's going to come at the beginning. But everything points to we are living through it. Why else would he warn us of everything that's going to happen? He tells us exactly in here what is going to happen in the end times. And that's pretty much what he's talking about here. When he comes back, are we going to be ready? He uses different metaphors for it, and they're very interesting. But from my point of view, everything points in the Bible to his coming at the end, and we have to remain faithful. And if you watched one of my earlier segments, you did catch one of the hints that was left for us. And he wants us to continue to invite people to get to know him. So I'll tell you a little bit later about why I started actually doing this, probably in a separate video. Okay? If you want it, you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. If you want to know a little bit about why I did it, why I'm doing this, please click on it. I will tell you one of the big reasons is because churches aren't giving the whole truth when it's right there in front of you. And it's what it says. So if they're not saying what's in the Bible, then obviously you need to read it. So, no, you don't have to believe everything I say. That's fine. Please look it up in the Bible. Please read it. Read it for yourself. Make your own. Ask for God's inspiration in your life, and he will give it to you. Anyway. Okay, friend. Okay. Then the Pharisees. Now, Jesus was saying all that. He was talking in parables again. Then the Pharisees plotted to trick Jesus by catching him out on something he said. They sent their disciples along with Herod's followers, and it was King Herod, followers and supporters to ask, "Teacher, we know that you're sincere and teach God's way accurately, and that you don't care about anyone's opinion and you don't play favorites. So tell us, what's your opinion? Is it legal to pay with the Roman poll tax to Caesar or not?" Jesus knew their evil. He said, "Why are you hassling me, you overly critical, hair-splitting, pedantic religious types? Show me the tax money." They brought him a Roman coin. "Whose portrait is this?" Jesus asked them. "Whose inscription is it?" "Caesar's," they replied. "Give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar," Jesus said, "and give back to God what belongs to God." When they heard this, they were amazed. They left him and took off. On the same day, the Sadducees, who said there is no resurrection, went to speak with Jesus. This is the question they put. "Teacher," Moses said, "if someone dies childless, his brother must marry his widow and produce children with her. Let's say that there are 7 brothers. The first brother married and died. He is childless. He leaves his wife to his brother. The second one dies in the same way. So does the third. This keeps happening right up to the 7th brother. In the end, the woman dies too. So, in the resurrection, whose wife of the 7 brothers is she going to be?" They all had her. I'm just going to say the poor girl. It's not a real, that's just a parable. It's just a story, but that he's telling. Or somebody's questioning him with. But resurrection, Jesus answered, "You are wandering off the right track because you don't know the scriptures or the power of God. In the resurrection, they don't marry or get married, but they're like the messengers in heaven." "But about the resurrection of the dead, haven't you read what was spoken to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob." God is not the God of the dead. He is the God of the living. Okay, so here's another thing that it also says. Okay, so he says, "I am." He's not talking about him. He's talking about God. Because to Israel, the Jews, that's how they know who God was. That was his name, I am. And that's what Jesus said. So some people are saying, well, he's God. No, he's not God. He even says he's not God. God says he's not God. He's God's son. And it repeats that over and over. And that's very important because he is God's son. Is he our king? Yes. But he's still God's son. He's not God. He says, I am the God of Abraham. So he's talking about God because that was God's name. And that's usually how they knew somebody was sent to them, is because they would use his actual name, and nobody else knew what his actual name was. And anyway, the other thing that we caught in here was about marriage. When we die and we take on the celestial body, that's technically what we call ghosts today, but you get a celestial body. Okay? So he's talking about the soul. Is the soul alive or is the soul dead? So there's a lot of here to ponder. So we know when we leave this life, nobody's married anymore. So it is strange for us, but we don't know all the rules. I mean, there's so much. We only use 10% of our brain, if that. Not sure everybody uses 10%. That's not very nice, but it's very true. Not everybody uses the 10% they're given. So if that's all we use right now, we're not ready for the rest of it. There's so much more information that we don't know, that we keep learning every day. I mean, think of computers. I literally grew up with them. They started back when I was just a baby, and it has grown so fast. It is amazing. I mean, some people have seen electricity in their lifetime, where it started. I mean, they knew when there was no electricity. Not everybody had electricity when they were born. So some things are kind of mind-blowing when you actually think about them. Okay, I'm talking too much. Get her right? Yeah, okay. I got it. Okay. So, when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they held a meeting. One of them, a lawyer, asked a question, trying to trap him. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law? He answered, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all of your understanding. This is the great first commandment. The second most important is like it. You must love your neighbor the same way that you love yourself. The law and the prophets depend on these two commandments. So those are the very most important. You got to think, if you love, are you going to hurt that person? No, you're going to try not to. Are you always going to? No, because sometimes you're just, unfortunately, if you're telling the truth, sometimes it will hurt. But that's how we are supposed to be. Are we all? No, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But when I do something wrong, I do pray to God, because you can't believe you did it. And anyway, and sometimes it's very hard to love others. As you all know, it's very hard. Very, very hard. But we must try. We must do the best that we can. We are only human, and he knows this. But you must try. While the Pharisees were assembled, Jesus said to them, what do you think about the Anointed One? Whose descendant is he? They answered, David's descendant. Well, Jesus began, how can David call him master? He said, by the leading of the Spirit, the Lord said to my master, sit here in the place of honor at my right side, until I put your enemies under your feet. So then, if David calls him master, how can he be David's descendant? No one could come up with an answer to this, and from that day forward, no one dared question him anymore. Then Jesus addressed the crowds and his disciples. The Bible scholars and the Pharisees are teachers of Moses' law. So practice and follow everything they tell you to do, but don't do what they actually do. They don't practice what they preach. They make up heavy, burdensome rules and weigh people down with them, but they themselves won't lift a finger to help. Everything they do is just for the show of it. They put extra large leather prayer boxes with scripture verses under their arms and on their foreheads. They put extra long tassels on the edge of their coats so they can look important. They love having the places of honor at celebrations, but the best seats in the synagogues, and they love it when people give them formal greetings in marketplaces. They love it when people call them to my title, Rabbi. But don't you be called Rabbi. You have one teacher, and you are all followers, fellow believers. And you are not to call anyone on earth Father. You have one Father, and he is in heavenly places. And don't be called leader. You have one leader, the anointed one. The most important person among you will be your servant. People who elevate themselves will be brought down, and people who bring themselves down will be elevated. Woe to you, Bible scholars and Pharisees, you overcritical, hair-splitting, pandemic, religious types, because you shut people out of heaven's realm. You don't go in there yourself, and what's more, you stop other people from going in there too. In other words, be careful of who you believe. Make sure you research. Your research is the Bible. If they are not following the Bible, find someone else. Talk to them first. I mean, obviously, maybe they will actually start teaching the Bible, but if they're not, and they're not willing to, yes, go somewhere else. Always research what they say. If they're of God, then they say what's in the Bible. Woe to you, Bible scholars and Pharisees, you overcritical, hair-splitting, pandemic religious lots. You travel by land and sea to win one convert to Judaism, and when you've won that person, you make them twice a part of the garbage pit Gehenna, as you are. Woe to you, blind guides. You say it doesn't mean anything to swear by the temple, but if you swear by the temple's gold, you are bound by oath. So if you swear by God, you are bound. So he's telling you not to do it, because if you don't do it, then you're in the wrong. And you can still be forgiven by Jesus's blood. I mean, you can. You have to really, really repent. The garbage pit Gehenna, as they mentioned here, is the everlasting fire. It's been called many things, but right now he called it the garbage pit Gehenna. And he calls it that several times. You blind fool, what's more important, the gold or the temple that made the gold sacred? And you say it doesn't mean anything to swear by the altar, but whoever swears by an offering on it is bound by oath. What blindness! What's important, the offering on or the altar that makes the offering sacred? So whoever swears an oath by the altar swears by it and everything on it. So whoever swears an oath by the temple, oops, I just read that again. So whoever swears an oath by heaven swears by God's throne and by the God who sits on it. Woe to you, Bible scholars and Pharisees, you overcritical, hair-splitting, pandemic religious types. You make sure you pay the tithe on herbs, mints, anise, cumin, but you neglect the more important things of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. You should have practiced these, not neglected the others. Blind guys, you strain your water to avoid swallowing a gnat, but you gulp down a camel. You gulp down a camel. Woe to you, Bible scholars and Pharisees, overcritical, hair-splitting, pandemic religious types. You clean out the cup and dish, but inside are full of robbery and lack of control. Blind Pharisees, First, clean inside the cap and dish, then it will mean something that outside is clean. Woe to you, Bible scholars and Pharisees, overly critical, hair-splitting, pedantic religious types, because you are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but inside they're full of dead bones and filth. In the same way that you too outwardly appear religious to people, but inside you are full of overly critical, hair-splitting, pedantic religious behavior, illegal acts. Woe to you, Bible scholars and overly critical, hair-splitting, pedantic types, because you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the monuments of the people who were right with God. You say, if we lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have been taken part with them in the death of the prophets. By saying that, you are actually giving evidence against yourselves, evidence that you were descendants of those who murdered the prophets. You might as well finish what your ancestors started. Snakes, pack of vipers. How can you escape from being sentenced to the garbage pit, Gehenna? Because of this, I am sending you prophets, wise people and Bible scholars. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Some you will beat in the synagogues, the Roman whip of the leather straps embedded with the metal designed to rip off flasks. You will chase them from city to city. But as a result, all the bloodshed on earth will become upon you. From the blood of just Abel to the blood of Zechariah, Berechiah, son, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. I tell you, all this will happen to your race of people. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who murder the prophets and stone the people who are sent to you. How often I wanted to gather your children together like the hen gathers her chickens under the wings, but you refused. Your temple is a deserted place. Let me make this clear. You won't see me from now on, from now until you say, happy is the one who comes in the Lord's name. So if you're going to church just to show people that you're religious, but you don't act it out in public, then you're going to the garbage pit, Gehenna. You have to be that person. You have to be there. You have to want justice for people. If you love them, don't you want justice? You don't want them hurting. So that's what he's saying. Some people just go to church or wear, the clothes just so they can be seen. Oh yes, I am a good Christian. See, look. He's saying, no, you must help the poor, help the sick, help the widowed. You want justice for them. Okay? You don't want bad things to happen to them. You want to give them a hand up. So that is what he is saying. So we're supposed to spread the word in our own way. He will help us, whether it be maybe you do paintings or illustrations. Maybe like me, I'm doing videos and hopefully somebody will listen. And maybe with your comments, we can get other people interested in loving each other and praising God. And as you can see, they portrayed Jesus as always being nice. No, he was yelling at them. He was definitely yelling at them. Maybe not yelling, but he was very stern in letting them know what they did wrong. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed these 2 chapters with me. Before you go, if you'll do me a favor and hit the like and the subscribe. And don't forget, I also do unboxings if you want to check out those. It's only a few. But it's kind of fun, and you'll see more of me, my little zany self. Because I can be a little zany. I'm like a child in a cookie shop. I really am sometimes. Anyway, I hope to see you again. And please comment down below. Maybe you caught something in the reading that I didn't catch. Or maybe you're disagreeing about the meaning of something. Please, I would like to discuss it with you. Because maybe between all of us, we get the right meaning and ask for God's inspiration. Okay? Well, you have a blessed day. Bye.